Have you ever wondered what truly makes for a happy and fulfilling life as we grow older? Is it the wealth we've accumulated, the family we raised, or something deeper that we might overlook? In this video, we'll explore the extraordinary story of 68-year-old Emiko, a woman who found her greatest treasures in life after years of selflessly giving to others. Her journey will not only challenge your assumptions about aging but also inspire you to rethink what it means to live a life of joy and purpose, no matter your age. Emiko's story is a powerful reminder that happiness in old age is not about relying on others or holding on to the past, but about discovering the three priceless treasures that can truly transform our lives: health, meaningful relationships, and hobbies. In this video, we'll dive into how Emiko found these treasures after years of sacrifice and struggle, and how her journey can offer us a new way of approaching our futures. You'll see how her simple yet profound decisions completely changed the way she lives today, and how you can apply these lessons to your own life. If you're wondering how you can find peace, joy, and fulfillment as you get older, or how to start living a life that's true to your heart, this video is for you. Stay with us until the end, because Emiko's life-changing insights could be the key to unlocking your happiness, no matter what stage of life you're in. So, keep watching and discover how you too can live a life full of purpose, love, and personal fulfillment. You don't want to miss this inspiring story. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. Emiko's journey to happiness is not just a story. It is a profound testament to the truths of life that many of us spend years searching for but rarely find. She once said, "I finally realized that what is truly necessary for a happy old age is not children or money, but these three things." What were these three treasures? How did they reveal themselves to her after a lifetime of challenges, sacrifices, and personal growth? Today, I want to share with you the inspiring story of Emiko, a mother who dedicated so many years of her life to others, only to discover the true meaning of happiness in the quiet moments of reflection. It is a story that shows how, after decades of giving everything for her children, Emiko found the brightest light in the twilight of her life. The question remains, how did a woman who poured her entire being into her family, working tirelessly for her children, her husband, and others, find the greatest happiness in her later years? How did she, after a lifetime of sacrifice, manage to discover that the key to a fulfilling, joyful old age was not found in external things, but in something far deeper? In a society that often measures success by what one accumulates or achieves, Emiko's journey serves as a profound reminder that the true treasures of life are not things, but inner peace, self-love, and the freedom to live authentically. There is a truth that every parent will understand. When you devote yourself entirely to your children, you sometimes lose sight of who you are. Your identity becomes so intertwined with their needs, their dreams, and their futures that you forget to nurture your desires, passions, and well-being. You spend your years in service of others, shaping their lives, their futures, their happiness, and in doing so, you may lose the sense of self that once defined you. This is especially true for mothers like Emiko, who sacrifice their own needs and dreams for the sake of their children's growth. But there is another truth, one that Emiko discovered after much soul-searching. When parents learn to love themselves, when they prioritize their happiness and well-being, they create a space for their children to thrive, too. Happiness and peace are contagious. When parents find joy in themselves, their children absorb that energy and that sense of contentment, and it helps them flourish. It was only after years of reflection that Emiko came to understand this. She had spent decades focusing on her family's needs, never once allowing herself the time or space to think about her happiness. Yet, as she grew older, she found that the more she gave to herself, the more she could give to others. The three treasures Emiko found in her life transformed her in ways she could never have imagined. They changed the way she viewed aging, and they reshaped her entire philosophy on life. Emiko's realization was revolutionary, not just for her, but for anyone who has ever questioned what truly matters in life. She understood, as only someone who has lived through both hardship and joy can, that the greatest happiness in life is not the one that others try to prescribe to us. It's the happiness we find within ourselves. It's the joy we create when we walk our path, guided by our hearts, our values, and our own choices. This is a freedom that is not dependent on anyone else's expectations, but on our sense of self-worth. The happiness Emiko found was not about money or accolades, but about preparing herself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for the next chapter of her life. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, Please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Emiko's words, though simple, carry a profound wisdom. She taught us that preparing for old age isn't about stacking up wealth or securing a comfortable future, but about preparing the soul. It's about learning how to embrace life with open arms, how to find contentment in the smallest of moments, and how to trust that the life you've lived has already given you everything you need to move forward with peace. This was the most important lesson Emiko had to share, and it's a lesson that can change the way we approach our own lives. Now, let us delve deeper into the life of today's protagonist, a woman whose story is a living testament to the power of self-discovery and resilience. The protagonist of this story is 68-year-old Keiko Takahashi. Keiko, like many of us, had spent her life working tirelessly for others, never allowing herself to rest or reflect on her own needs. But on the day she made the difficult decision to close the small restaurant she had operated for 34 years in Asakusa, Tokyo, she experienced a life-changing revelation, a moment that would forever alter her perspective on what truly matters in life. For 34 years, Keiko had been the heart and soul of her restaurant. It was a small, humble establishment, but it had become her life's work, the place where she poured not only her energy and skills but also her heart. Her husband, who had passed away in an accident when their children were young, had always supported her. After his sudden death, Keiko was left to raise their 2 daughters, Haruka and Yuki, on her own. Despite the overwhelming grief, Keiko refused to let her circumstances define her. She knew she couldn't rely on her family for help, and so, with sheer determination, she opened the small roadside restaurant, offering simple yet heartfelt meals, rice and miso soup, cooked with love for anyone who came through her doors. She worked tirelessly, day after day, week after week, and year after year, pouring all of her energy into the restaurant. Keiko sacrificed her dreams and desires, focusing only on the needs of her daughters. She worked hard to ensure they received the best education, saved every penny to help pay for their weddings, and did everything in her power to give them the life they deserved. Yet, despite her sacrifices, she had never once complained. She had been determined to keep moving forward, to provide for her family, no matter the cost to her well-being. But as the years passed, Keiko's body began to show signs of wear and tear. The exhaustion, the long hours, the physical toll of running the restaurant, all of it started to catch up with her. One day, as she stood in the small kitchen, the smell of miso soup filling the air, Keiko realized that it was time to let go. It was time to close the doors of her beloved restaurant. Her daughters had been urging her to stop working for some time, concerned that she was overexerting herself. "Mom, now you should relax and live with us. We'll take care of you," they said, their voices filled with love and worry. Haruka, the eldest, and Yuki, the youngest, each took turns gently trying to persuade her to retire. They didn't want their mother to feel lonely or troubled after the closure of the restaurant. Yet, Keiko simply smiled, her eyes radiating a quiet wisdom that only comes from a lifetime of experience. There was no resistance, no bitterness in her smile, just a calm, almost serene acceptance. She had come to understand that her life's work, the sacrifices she had made, and the love she had poured into her family were enough. She had done her best, and now it was time to find peace. Keiko's smile was not one of sadness but of profound understanding. It was a smile that spoke of a life well lived, a life that had given everything it could to others, and now, at the twilight of her years, had finally found the space to embrace herself. At that moment, she realized that the greatest gift she could give herself, and her family, was the gift of peace. Her daughters, though initially concerned, saw the change in their mother's eyes. They realized that Emiko had already made peace with herself. She had found her 3 treasures: self-love, acceptance, and the courage to live her life on her terms. As she closed the restaurant, Keiko was not leaving behind a life of sacrifice, but a life of freedom. And with that freedom came the peace that only comes when you learn to embrace the fullness of your own life, without regret, without hesitation, and with an open heart. Through her story, Emiko teaches us all that the greatest treasures of life are not those that we can hold in our hands, but those that live deep within our hearts. And when we find them, we not only change our own lives, but we also create a ripple of peace and happiness that touches everyone around us. "Mom, please, don't worry," Emiko said softly, her voice carrying the weight of years spent quietly bearing the burdens of life. "I will manage my life on my own." Her words hung in the air, gentle yet resolute. Her daughters, Haruka and Yuki, stood frozen, unable to mask the confusion and worry that clouded their expressions. They simply couldn't understand why their mother, who had worked tirelessly for over 3 decades, refused to let them help her now. After all, hadn't she earned the right to rest, to finally ease into a life of tranquility surrounded by the love of her family? But Emiko's heart, so often a quiet fortress of resilience, had its reasons for what she had chosen. She had long since learned that true peace came not from the support of others, but from within. Slowly, she met their gaze, and with a sigh that seemed to come from the depths of her soul, she shared her truth. In these 34 years, she began, her voice steady yet tinged with the wisdom of a woman who had lived through both joy and hardship, I've come to understand one thing. It is when you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, when you rely on yourself, that you can truly find happiness and strength. You've both grown into incredible women. You've built your own families, and now, it's my turn to build my peace, my own life, free of the burden of anyone else's expectations. Haruka and Yuki stood in silence, the weight of their mother's words settling upon them like a heavy blanket. Their hearts ached with a desire to shield her, to offer her the comfort she had so often given them. But they struggled to understand. Wasn't it their turn now to care for her? Weeks passed, and Emiko's words seemed to echo in the quiet moments when they thought of her. Then, one evening, they received a message that would change everything. A picture of their mother, vibrant and glowing, standing on a quiet hill in Nagano, the backdrop bathed in the soft golden light of sunset. She was smiling, truly smiling, in a way they had never seen before. Her face was free from the lines of exhaustion that had once marred her features. Her eyes were full of a quiet joy that seemed to radiate from deep within. The realization washed over them like a sudden wave. Their mother had made the right choice. In that single image, they understood. Emiko was no longer bound by the weight of others' expectations. She had found something deeper than the fleeting comfort of being cared for. She had found herself. And in doing so, she had given her daughters the most profound gift of all. The lesson that happiness doesn't come from living the life others want for you, but from living the life you want for yourself. It was a lesson that would take them years to fully comprehend, but one they would carry with them forever. As time passed, Emiko continued to prove that her journey was about far more than simply finding peace. It was about embracing the 3 pillars that people say are essential in old age: health, relationships, and hobbies. But for Emiko, the foundation of it all was health. For 34 years, she had poured herself into the restaurant she had built from the ground up, working long hours and sacrificing her well-being in the process. She had built a legacy, but her body had paid the price. The endless standing had taken its toll on her back, her shoulders, and her spirit. And one day, when the pain became too much to ignore, she was diagnosed with a herniated disc. Despite the diagnosis, Emiko refused to slow down. She continued working, driven by a sense of duty, a love for her business, and a belief that there was no time to rest. But deep down, the pain was a constant reminder that she couldn't keep pushing her body forever. When she retired, Emiko knew that the time had come to change. She could no longer ignore the cries of her body. It was time to listen, time to care for herself. Every morning, she woke with a quiet determination. She would walk. It wasn't much at first, just a short walk around the neighborhood park. But even that small step was an act of courage, an act of self-love. Her back screamed with pain, and each step felt like a battle, but Emiko did not relent. She had walked through years of difficulty, and this was no different. Day after day, she walked. At first, one lap around the park felt like an achievement. Then, she pushed herself to do 2 laps. And slowly but surely, the pain began to ease. Her body, once so burdened by the weight of years, began to feel lighter. Her back, once a constant source of discomfort, no longer dominated her every movement. Each step became a victory. Each lap became a testament to her resilience. 2 months later, something extraordinary had happened. Emiko's body had not only healed, but it had blossomed into something new. She had found strength where there had once been weakness. Her energy was renewed, her spirit lifted. The aches and pains that had once defined her were now distant memories. More importantly, Emiko had rediscovered the simple joy of movement, the power of taking care of oneself. She had not only regained her physical health, but her emotional and mental well-being had flourished as well. She was different now. She was more than the woman who had spent decades running a restaurant. She was a woman who had reclaimed her life, her health, and her peace. Haruka and Yuki could see it now. When they spoke with their mother, they no longer heard the tired woman who had once carried the world on her shoulders. They heard a woman who had learned to live for herself, who had found a way to flourish even in the later years of life. They saw the vibrant, radiant woman who had not just survived but thrived. In her journey, Emiko had shown her daughters something far more valuable than any material possession. She had shown them the power of self-reliance, the strength of choosing your path, and the incredible rewards of living authentically. It wasn't about the things she had done for them, it was about the way she had taught them to live for themselves, to take charge of their happiness, and to never give up on the pursuit of inner peace. Emiko's story was not just one of personal growth. It was a living, breathing testament to the fact that it is never too late to begin again, to rebuild, to rediscover yourself, and to choose joy. She had taught her daughters that happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create, something you nurture, and something that starts from within. One quiet afternoon, as the golden rays of the sun filtered through the leaves of the trees, Emiko sat on a park bench, savoring the stillness of the moment. The air was crisp, and the world around her seemed to pause, offering her a much-needed respite from the busyness of life. Lost in her thoughts, she watched children run around and elderly couples stroll hand in hand, feeling a deep sense of peace. But this tranquility was fleeting. Her heart longed for something more. It was then that an elderly woman, with a warm smile and an energy that seemed to defy the years, approached her. She had a kindness in her eyes that immediately put Emiko at ease. "You walk every day, don't you?" the woman asked, her voice gentle but lively. "Would you like to join our yoga club? It's very relaxed, and anyone can join, regardless of age or experience." Emiko hesitated for only a moment. She had never thought about doing yoga before, and at her age, she wasn't sure if she was physically capable. Yet, something in the woman's invitation stirred something deep within her, an unfamiliar excitement, the kind she hadn't felt in years. "Why not?" she thought. "Maybe this is what I need to fill the emptiness I've been feeling." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. With a smile that reflected her curiosity and hope, Emiko agreed to join. Little did she know, that decision would become a turning point in her life. Yoga, with its slow, deliberate movements and emphasis on breath, offered Emiko not just physical exercise, but a pathway to rediscover herself. Each session brought her closer to her body, allowing her to feel stronger, more grounded, and more in tune with the present moment. One morning, during a particularly peaceful class, Emiko couldn't help but share her thoughts with her fellow participants. As she moved through a gentle stretch, she reflected aloud, "For so many years, I believed my children would be the ones to take care of me in my old age, that they would bear the weight of my health. I had placed that responsibility on them, thinking it was only natural. But now I understand. My health is my responsibility. It is my most precious treasure. I can't burden my children with medical costs and care. I must take care of myself. It's in my hands, and that is true freedom." Her voice trembled slightly with emotion, but her words rang with a newfound strength. The other members of the group nodded, some smiling in recognition, others silently contemplating the truth of her realization. Emiko had come to understand something fundamental. True freedom in old age is not about relying on others. It's about the ability to stand on your own, to take charge of your well-being, and to live without regret or dependence. But yoga wasn't the only new venture Emiko decided to embrace. Her life, once marked by routine and solitude, now felt rich with possibility. One afternoon, while walking through her neighborhood, a brightly colored flyer caught her eye. It was an invitation to volunteer at the local park, offering an opportunity to help care for the gardens. Emiko's first instinct was to dismiss it. She had no experience with gardening. But then, something inside her clicked. Why not give it a try? She thought. Maybe it will be fun to learn something new. It could be a way to meet people and feel more connected to the world. The very next day, Emiko found herself at the park, ready to begin her first volunteer shift. She was assigned to remove weeds and prepare the soil for a new flower bed. At first, the task seemed overwhelming. The shovel felt heavy in her hands, and the weeds stubbornly clung to the earth. Her back ached, and her hands weren't as steady as they used to be. Just as she was about to give up, a small, timid voice interrupted her thoughts. "Grandma, am I doing this right?" Emiko looked down to see a little boy, no older than 8, standing beside her. His eyes were wide with uncertainty, and his tiny hands held a shovel awkwardly. She smiled warmly, the tenderness in her heart overwhelming any feelings of frustration. Kneeling, she gently showed him how to hold the shovel properly, teaching him the delicate art of digging without disturbing the roots of the plants. The boy's face lit up as he got it right, and for the first time in a long while, Emiko felt a spark of connection with someone. This wasn't just about gardening, it was about nurturing a relationship, passing on knowledge, and finding joy in the simple things. From that day forward, Emiko and the boy developed a bond. She looked forward to their weekly gardening sessions, where they worked side by side, chatting about life, about plants, and their dreams. As the weeks passed, Emiko became a familiar presence in the park. She not only helped with the gardening but also formed friendships with the other volunteers, all of whom welcomed her with open arms. The park became her sanctuary, a place of connection, learning, and belonging. And one day, as she was watering the flowers with love and care, another woman approached her. "You're growing flowers too?" she asked, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. Emiko paused and looked around at the vibrant blooms that surrounded her, their colors brighter and more alive than she ever could have imagined. "Actually," she said softly, her voice filled with wonder, "I've never grown anything before. But these flowers, they've made me feel like I'm starting a new life. They've shown me that no matter how old you are, you can still plant seeds, both in the earth and in your own heart, and watch them grow." As she spoke, Emiko realized how much she had changed in such a short time. The loneliness that had once cast a shadow over her life was now nothing more than a distant memory. In its place bloomed joy, laughter, and the warmth of friendships that were slowly being cultivated. She had opened herself up to the world again, and the world had responded with love, kindness, and new opportunities. One evening, as Emiko sat on her porch, reflecting on everything she had experienced, she shared a moment of clarity with her fellow volunteers. "The greatest fear in old age," she said, her voice full of sincerity, "isn't loneliness. It's not having a place in the world, feeling like you no longer matter, like you've been forgotten. But I've learned something important. By opening your heart, by saying yes to new experiences, and by reaching out to others, you can overcome that fear. You can build meaningful connections and discover that, no matter your age, you still have something valuable to offer. And that is what truly conquers loneliness." Emiko's words lingered in the air, a quiet testament to the wisdom she had gained. She had come to understand that life doesn't stop at any age. It's a constant cycle of growth, renewal, and discovering new paths. She wasn't just growing flowers in the park, she was growing herself, blooming into a person full of purpose, connection, and peace. In the process, Emiko had found something far more profound than just a cure for loneliness. She had found the joy of living fully every single day. The last thing anyone expected was for Emiko, at the age of 68, to decide to take up something as intricate and challenging as piano lessons. "Mom, are you going to take piano lessons?" her daughters asked, their voices laced with a mix of disbelief and concern. They had always known their mother as a figure of selfless devotion, a woman who had spent her entire life putting her family first, whose own dreams and desires were always quietly set aside for the sake of those she loved. The thought of their mother, now an older woman, deciding to embark on a new learning adventure was completely foreign to them. To them, she was the pillar of the family, always steady, always reliable, but never someone who took risks or stepped outside the familiar rhythms of daily life. And yet, there she was, standing firm, her heart alight with determination and resolve. Emiko's journey to this moment had been long and filled with sacrifice. As a young girl, she had once dreamed of playing the piano, the music speaking to her soul in ways words never could. She had imagined herself sitting at the piano, her fingers dancing across the keys, creating melodies that expressed the beauty of her inner world. But life, as it so often does, had other plans. The demands of family, of raising children, and of taking care of a household had consumed her time and energy. Her dream of learning the piano, so vivid and full of promise in her youth, had slowly faded into the background, tucked away as just another unfulfilled wish. Yet, despite the years that had passed, that dream had never truly disappeared. It had simply been buried beneath the weight of all the other responsibilities she had shouldered. Now, with her children grown, living their own lives, and with a newfound space in her life, Emiko was determined to reclaim that dream. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. At 68, her fingers no longer moved with the same grace they once did, and the notes on the sheet music felt like cryptic symbols. Every time she pressed a key, her fingers trembled, unsure of their place. The music, once so familiar in her imagination, now felt elusive and distant. But Emiko was not one to be easily discouraged. She had spent her life overcoming challenges, and this was no different. Every day, she sat at the piano, practicing the same notes, the same simple melodies, until her fingers grew more accustomed to the keys. Slowly, very slowly, she began to feel the music return to her. It was as if each note was a conversation with herself. A conversation about perseverance, about the beauty of starting anew, no matter how old you were. She would often say to her daughters, "Time is not something to fill, but something to create. Every single day is an opportunity to make something beautiful. Even the simplest of notes can be woven together to create something extraordinary. Learning something new at this stage in life isn't something to fear. What's truly frightening is letting time slip away without ever trying to grow, without ever reaching for something you've always wanted." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Her words echoed in her daughters' minds, who had always seen their mother as a woman of quiet strength, but never one to seek personal fulfillment. To them, her life had been one of sacrifice, of giving and giving without asking for anything in return. But now, they saw something new in her, something radiant and full of life. Over time, they began to see that her decision wasn't just about learning an instrument. It was about reclaiming a part of herself that had been lost for so long. It was about proving that no matter how old you are, there is always room to grow, learn, and become the person you were always meant to be. 6 months later, Emiko's life had undergone a profound transformation. She could now play the simple songs from her childhood, the ones she had once dreamed of playing but never had the chance to. With each note, she felt a deep sense of joy, a peace that came from within, a peace that music had given her. She no longer saw the piano as an object of struggle but as a trusted companion, one that helped her express all the emotions she had stored up over the years. When she sat at the piano, she was not the 68-year-old woman who had once felt the weight of time passing her by. She was once again that young girl with wide eyes, filled with wonder and excitement at the magic of music. There was a lightness in her spirit, a joy that came from the simple act of creating something beautiful with her own hands. One evening, her eldest daughter, who had always been the most protective, looked at her with concern in her eyes. "Mom, do you enjoy living alone?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Emiko looked at her daughter with a soft, knowing smile. She reached out and gently held her daughter's hand, her eyes filled with love and understanding. "My dear, I love you, more than words can ever express. But my choice to live alone isn't about rejecting you. It's about giving myself the space to grow. I want you to live your own life, without feeling that you have to care for me. Loving you means letting go, so that you can live freely, without being burdened by me. Taking care of myself, pursuing my dreams, that is the best way I know how to show you my love." Her daughters fell silent, not fully understanding at the moment, but over time, they came to realize that her choice wasn't about distance, it was about respect. Emiko was teaching them that love doesn't always mean proximity, nor does it mean dependence. True love, she had shown them, means respecting each other's autonomy, supporting each other's journeys, and allowing each person to flourish in their way. One day, her youngest daughter, the one who had been the most concerned, said thoughtfully, "You know, Mom, if you had lived with us, you probably wouldn't have been as happy as you are now." Her words hung in the air, and the truth of them settled in the hearts of all 3 women. They realized that their mother's decision to live on her own, to continue growing and pursuing her passions, was what had allowed her to shine so brightly. She was no longer just the woman who had taken care of everything for everyone else. She was a woman in full bloom, living with purpose, with meaning, and with joy. From afar, her daughters watched in awe as their mother embraced this new chapter of her life. They saw her playing her piano with such devotion, her heart filled with a quiet pride, knowing she was living fully, in the way she had always wanted. And though they still missed her, and wished she were closer, they now understood. Emiko was teaching them all, through her actions, that it is never too late to chase a dream, to learn something new, and to live a life that is true to yourself. Her life was proof that, no matter your age, no matter how many years have passed, there is always the opportunity for reinvention, for joy, and for a love that is free and full of respect. As we've walked through Emiko's incredible journey, we've learned a powerful lesson about the strength of the human spirit and the beauty of pursuing one's dreams, no matter how old we are. Emiko's story is a reminder that it's never too late to start something new, to rediscover passions long forgotten, and to embrace the possibilities of life with open arms. Through her piano lessons, she not only found a new sense of purpose, but also showed us all the importance of self-love, independence, and the value of permitting ourselves to grow. So, what have you learned from Emiko's story? What one thing will you bring into your own life and start putting into practice today? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below sharing your key takeaway and how you plan to apply it in your own life. If you enjoyed this video and feel inspired by Emiko's journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories and valuable insights. Your support means the world to us. And as always, thank you for watching. We can't wait to hear from you in the comments.